the fifth chapter of the book of Tehillim, Lamnatzech al HaNichilot, Mizmor LeDavid, for the leader of Nichilot, a psalm of David. We don't know exactly what this term means. Nichilot, some sort of musical instrument that was played by somebody. It's not clear to those who sort of relate it to a word that also means bees in Hebrew. Maybe with some buzzing sound, but yeah, bee-like instrument, unclear. But like many other psalms, it's something that's written to music, as we know that we've seen with the other ones. Amarai ha'azina Adonai bina hagigi. Give ear to my speech. So listen, like Ozen, right? Listen to what I have to say, God. Consider the words of my lips, in a sense. Consider my utterance. Hakshiva lekol shav'i. Malki ve'Elohai ke'elecha et palal. Listen to the sound of my crying out, my King and God, because I am praying to you. And something we haven't seen so much here, a little bit in Tehillim, but we'll see much more, is a lot of it's in the first person. My God, my King, consider my speech. And we haven't had so many chapters up to this point, which have been prayer. They have most have been narrative stories, there's been some law, but we haven't had so much personal prayer, which of course is a lot of Tehillim. So we'll see a lot of first person that we haven't seen before. Okay, I believe we're up to verse 4. Adonai, boker tishma koli, boker erach lecha ba'atzapeh. So listen to my voice, God, in the morning as day breaks, right? Koli is my voice. Boker, listen to it in the morning. I plead before you, and my English that I have here says, and I wait. Atzapeh is not just to wait; it's to sort of to yearn. I would think is to me. I mean, this person who 1917 JPS translation probably knows better a lot more than I do. But generally, to me, the word litzapot doesn't mean just to wait, but it means to yearn for something, right? If David is the author here, David is not just saying, "I wait for you, God." David is pleading; he's asking God to help him. Kilo el chafetz resha, ata lo yigurcha ra. Because you're not a God who wants wickedness, who wants evil. There can't be evil living with you. It doesn't exist. You're God. We think about the Beit HaMikdash. It was only after the enemies were all gone. It's only after the Jewish people were living in peace and serenity during the time of King Solomon that a temple could be built. So, right, God can only live in this earth, whatever that means, when the evil has been removed. So that's what seemingly the psalmist, what David is saying here, right? You don't want wickedness. Wicked cannot live amongst you. We're continuing. We're in Psalm 5. We're up to verse 6. Lo yit yatzvu holilim leneged einecha, sanate kol poalei oven. So if evil men, they can't remain in your sight. You detest all evil. Ta'abed dovrei chazad ishtamim umirma yitaev Adonai. Those who speak lies, they will be in trouble with you. They will be oveyed. They will be lost. They will be doomed. They will be, taken care of, taken out to the woodshed or so, as we might say. Those people who are ishtamim, who are bloody men, right? Killers, murderers, those who speak ill, umirma yitaev Hashem. God hates that sort of people. Interesting to think about these words. Ish damim, a man of blood, which the commentaries, for example, Rashi says it refers to Esav and his descendants, but it's impossible not to think of what we haven't seen yet, but you have presumably heard in your life, where in the retelling of the story of David's desire to build the Beit HaMikdash, he's told in Divrei Hayamim, we're told that he cannot build the temple because he's an Ish damim. He's a person who has spilled much blood. And so interestingly here, that word is used not for him. And I don't remember what the phrase there is. He's a man of blood, or his hands are full of blood. But right, we were talking about just a couple of moments ago, God's temple is a place of peace, maybe not for animals, but for human beings. The wickedness has to be gone. David and his wars have to be done. Be a time of tremendous peace. And then King Solomon, then Shlomo can build the temple. So interestingly here, seeing the phrase Ish Damim, thinking that if David is the author of this kapitel Tehillim, of this chapter of Tehillim, that he's speaking about other people's ishtamim. He doesn't see himself as that way. He is somebody who is defending his people. He's somebody, right, who's killing Goliath. He's people. He's killing the threats and people who are. He's a defender of his people. He's not a man of blood, and that's maybe why Rashi and others are talking to Esav. We think of Esav, who is a hunter, who's a man who goes out to the field, who's a man who's seen as a very violent person. So that's what I would say it's his descendants who are referred to here. Continuing in verse 8, a phrase that a pasuk that we may know. Va'ani berov chastecha vovetecha eshtachaveh lechal kodshecha be'yiratecha. But I, through your love, God, through your kindness, I bow at your holy temple. I bow with a sense of reverence. That's how I bow to you. This is known by many people because it is in the Matovu Alecha Yaakov prayer that's recited by people in the morning. It's early part of the in Sidurim as part of the sort of the introductory prayers before the brachot or amongst the brachot of Shachrit. And right here, David goes, of course, to transition from those who hate to it's your love and your kindness. That's probably why it's translated as love. Chastecha. We of course understand chastecha and chesed to be more kindness, but kindness and love are oftentimes not that separate. Adonai necheni v'tzidkatecha leman shoverai hayishar lefanai darkecha. God, lead me along your paths of righteousness because of my enemies. Make your way straight before me. Right. So there are people who are against David. There are those who try to explain that this was a psalm that was said, that was sung before the Jews would go out into battle, into war. It's trying to get God and treat God to be on their side, perhaps to inspire the people to know that God was with them. We are the ones who are the friends of God. Those are the enemies of God, as it were. And so that may be the reason why we have this idea of these enemies who are around, the enemies, the evildoers who it talks about in the earlier verses. Continuing pasuk yud, ki ein befihu nichona kirbam uvot kever patuach gronam lishonam yachalikun. There is no, in their mouth, there's nothing right. There's nothing sincere. Their heart is full of evil and with malice. Their throat is an open grave. The tongue is slippery. Ha'ashimim Elohim yiplu mimoatzotehem. So the sorry, 1 second. We condemn them, God. Let them fall through their own plots, through their many crimes, that they rebel against you, that they defy you. V'yismechu kol chosevach le'olam yiranenu, v'tasech alemo, v'ya'altzu v'cha ohavei shemecha. But let those who take refuge in you, those who rejoice in being close to you, God, you should shelter them and let them exalt in your name. For you bless the righteous one, O Lord. You fill him or her with favor like a shield, like an atar. Atar here oftentimes means a crown. Here it's being translated in that theme of maybe this is going out to battle, and where it's being said to puff up the soldiers of Israel. We're with God. God is with us. We're going to go to battle. God, we're close to God, and therefore we could be successful. So perhaps that's the reason it's translated more as a shield and a protector than is often the case. So here we have again a couple of things. It's personal prayer, right? The opening verses where it says, "Go listen to koli, my voice," right? Hakshiva lekol shiv'i, listen to my cries. Malki, my king, the Elohai, the Elohai, and my God. So it's very personal. We pointed out a number of chapters ago. The idea of Tehillim is not a national story. These may have been psalms that are said before battles, as some speculate about this capital. We know that they are psalms that are said publicly in prayer, but they come from personnel. They're from a personal perspective. It's a specific person, say David HaMelech, who's praying to God and asking God to hear out his cries. We know that David had many enemies, both sadly amongst his people early in his life and later in his life with rebellions, as well as enemies of the Jewish people who he went to battle with. But believing and knowing that God was with him and he was fulfilling God's will, he does not see himself as an ish damim. He talks about his enemies being an ish damim, even though there are similar descriptions of him, as we said, when he wanted to build the Beit HaMikdash, and God said, not until the next generation.